Welcome everyone. Let's take a look at the world event for this week. It is called Rainbow's End, so I assume it has something to do with magical unicorns that poop out Skittles. I have not read the lore on it, nor do I plan to, but that's what I choose to believe. And let's see, I bought the first 4 tiers in the shop, and that's just so I could get the weapon. It's also in the Soul Forge. If you do want the weapon, I will suggest spending gems instead of diamonds. You'll have to buy tier 4, which is 350 or something like that. Maybe a little bit more in gems. Let's take a look at Prism Staff. Choose a color, remove all gems of that color, deal scatter damage boosted by the gems removed. You only get +2 for each gem. It's not overly impressive, but weapon numbers count. Once you get higher up in Kingdom Stars, you're going to need as many weapons as possible. So that's what I've chosen to do. And back to overview, our medal this week. They actually did this right, and they made the scoring actually very simple. Prism medal, 160% spell damage for all troops. Yay, I like that, they got it right. And let me see, what was I saying? Oh, the scoring, yes. When you get to your mythic fight, which is it, you do a certain number of fights and then you'll get different fights, and then eventually after a certain number of fights you'll get a mythic fight. And basically it's all straightforward scoring. If that's on the screen, it's the only thing there, you want to take that. If you have the 2 legendary fights, Killen and I believe it's Holy Saint Astra, they both have the same score, so you always want to just pick the one that has the higher level, because every time you go up in levels on the fight, you get more. And I don't know the exact number, I haven't looked at that, but this starts out at 12, I believe, and goes up 6 every time, maybe. Might be 3. Same thing with your legendaries. And your ultra rares are basically the same. You just want to pick whichever one you've leveled up higher. And I have yet to have to fight I guess that would be an ultra rare fight, the blue one. So this is what I'm running right now. I'm running Bard just to make this a wild folk. So I get a 50% start with King Silenus. And I looked at all the options for red, yellow, and I didn't want to take away brown, I didn't want to take away green. So Radiant Jewel does damage to an enemy boosted by Pan's Veil allies, which is all of these, because basically we're only using Pan's Veil troops this week. And create a mix of 6 green and yellow for each Pan's Veil ally. And I'm using Bard, which all yellow allies gain 1 to all stats at the start of each turn. I don't think that's going to come into play too much this week. It's possible later on in the week, if they start hitting way too hard with skulls, I may switch to a 40% skull reduction team and change up whatever storm I would start with, which right now I'm not starting with any storm. Pan, which when you put them with 3 other wild folk, gets quite a bit more damage. And I mentioned this earlier, 107 damage to 3 random enemies, and not earlier in this video, in my previous video. And wild folk allies gain 1 to life and magic when matching 4 or more gems. Starflower does damage to all enemies summoned by ally and enemy Fae, I believe. I don't have any Fae in here. And 20% chance to transform into a pixie if your front troop dies. This is a good troop to keep near the back because it can summon a random Fae. And pretty much the only reason I have this in here instead of Luna is the 50% chance to fairy fire a random enemy at the start of my turn, which when you mix that with the 160% skull damage, it's pretty nice. I've seen some people are actually running 2 of these in the back just for the fairy fire. And then King Silenus does splash damage, boosted by Wild Folk. You get +6 for each one, and they start with 50% mana. And that's kind of where I'm going. I'll go through a fight or two, and then I'll give some ideas on troops and everything. Let's see. You're going to fill up. And I don't really have any complaints on this event right now. Everything's going pretty easy and straightforward, and I'm just about out of sigils for the day. And that kind of makes me a little bit happy when I don't have any complaints on a world event. So that one was quite easy. And see, I'm up to 81 light, which, as I said, they just keep growing and growing. I have yet to have to fight one of these ultra rares. This epic fight is still very low level and is quite easy. I'll run through this one, and then I will throw a few ideas out there for people that have lower level teams. Might be able to kill him with that. Nope. And as you can see, the Valor fight, I'm not going to do this one, but they're already up to about 600 between armor and HP, so they're starting to get up there. None of these troops are overly dangerous, though, so it's kind of just wear them down a little bit. Let's look at some troops that might be useful for people who don't have... Let's look at weapons first. I believe everything... here's Prism Staff. I wouldn't want to use that unless I had to. Definitely would look for, either Glaive of Goats, who, can create green and yellow for Wild Folk, or Radiant Jewel. They're both in the Soul Forge. I don't know if you'd really want to craft either of those with 300 diamonds. Anybody can get Orpheus's Loot. It's one of the rewards from killing 250 enemies. All it does, though, is you're going to gain some life and enchant other allies. About the only thing you have is Loot of the Veil, which you unlock doing basically your kingdom quests and all that, and then Sylvasi Blades. Neither one of those are too impressive, but if that's what you have to go with, then that's what you have to go with. And that's when you want to start pairing it up with troops that can be useful. Something like Blade Dancer, who does scatter damage boosted by all enemy armor and steals magic from a random enemy, does start with 50% mana, so you don't have to run it with King Silenus. The only thing is, it's going to have diminishing returns throughout the fight. But it's an option right there, the first cast of that. If you've got some Fairy Fire going on with Starflower, you'll probably cut through some of the first fights pretty darn easy. Elwyn, destroy a row and column, does damage to a random enemy, boosted by yellow gems destroyed, and each one is going to do an extra 7. And if you've got a full metal, that's going to add up pretty quickly, and that will start with a light storm at the start of battle. Another one I would probably look at, if you don't have any of the above, Luna's always a good choice because it does damage to all enemies and can give status effects to either you or the opposing troops, and explodes a random gem when matching yellow. Pretty nice. Another one, because I know not everybody has Pan, not everybody has Starflower. Another one I was looking at, if you have it, Starflower, I would suggest just for the Fairy Fire and the fact that it does damage to all enemies, and if something dies, it can summon a random Fae. Oh, I wish we could have used Wild Queen this week, but she just doesn't fit in my opinion. If you need mana because you're not buying either the first and or second tier, Trickster would be a good one to create mana. Can explode gems, switch the first and last enemy, and starts with 75% mana, so that could be useful. In a pinch, Silent One. Silence all enemies and myself, then you only have to worry about skull damage. So that could be interesting as well. It doesn't do any damage, so you're kind of just holding off the tide while you kill with something else. And if I've missed any useful troops, somebody will let me know. But anyways, let me know what you're running, and I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.